Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're skipping the long intro and diving straight into an incredibly dramatic story of human survival against a literally freezing planet. We're talking about a time when the Earth's climate completely turned against humanity. It was a brutal era that forced entire societies to either adapt at lightning speed or just perish in the ice. I want you to imagine a world where regional winter temperatures suddenly plummet by a massive 2 degrees Celsius. Now, I know 2 degrees doesn't sound like a big deal when you're looking at your weather app, right? But in reality, that tiny number is enough to freeze entire seas solid, crush villages under advancing ice, and absolutely wreck global harvests. Which brings us to a terrifying yet kind of fascinating question. How exactly did humanity survive this sudden, massive environmental shock? Because as you're going to see, the response wasn't just uniform suffering across the board. Instead, there was this radical split between total devastation and, surprisingly, unbelievable innovation.
Section 1. The Great Chill.
So, this whole chaotic era spanned roughly from 1300 to 1850. But it wasn't just one long, continuous freeze like you might think. It was actually a really volatile series of climactic phases. Things started cooling off way back in the late 1200s, teased us with a slight warming in the 1500s, and then it just plummeted into a brutally cold period between 1645 and 1715. The environmental shock during those darkest years was absolutely staggering. I mean, pack ice expanded so far south that it entirely cut off Atlantic shipping routes. Imagine literal glaciers bulldozing mountain towns. It was wild. In fact, the threat was so enduring that as late as 1930, the French government was still commissioning reports to investigate the danger of advancing alpine glaciers.
Moving into Section 2, the science behind the freeze.
To really wrap our heads around this historical tragedy, we actually have to look up. Right around this time, the Earth experienced what's called the Maunder Minimum. Basically, this was a period of mysteriously inactive solar activity marked by a severe lack of sunspots. And wouldn't you know it, it perfectly aligns right smack in the middle of our coldest historical phase.
But here's the kicker. That lack of sunspots, it only accounts for a maximum global temperature drop of 0.4 degrees Celsius. So yeah, the sun was definitely cooler, but climate models show it wasn't even close to being enough to trigger a deep freeze all on its own.
So if the sun only lowered things by a fraction of a degree, what on earth caused the extreme 2-degree freezing across Europe and North America? The math just doesn't add up without some other massive atmospheric mechanism pulling the strings. And the answer lies in the North Atlantic Oscillation. Think of it like a giant atmospheric seesaw. During the Little Ice Age, this system got completely stuck in a persistent negative mode. Pressure systems over the Azores and Iceland weakened, which practically left the front door wide open for freezing Arctic air to funnel directly into northern Europe, all while pushing severe storms way south into the Mediterranean.
Let's look at Section 3, a fight for survival. Let's check in on the world's most isolated regions first, where this climate shift was pretty much apocalyptic. Plunging temperatures reduced growing seasons by weeks. Suddenly, commercial vineyards in England vanished entirely. Northern fishing industries collapsed practically overnight because the cod migrated south in a desperate search for warmer waters. The most basic food supply chains were fundamentally broken.
These marginal regions were absolutely battered, and the historical evidence we have is chilling. I mean, tax records from Scandinavia literally show entire farms being written off because they were crushed by advancing ice. In the Alps, ice-dammed lakes would just periodically burst, sending massive walls of water down to wipe out hundreds of buildings. And up in Scotland, permanent snow settled completely over the mountains.
But honestly, perhaps no place suffered quite like Iceland. Sea ice pushed so far south that for months on end, it was literally impossible to bring a ship ashore anywhere along the coast. Grain just wouldn't grow. Even the hardy hay crops completely failed. And to make a terrible situation even worse, local volcanoes started erupting, choking out the sky and sealing their isolation for good.
The sheer devastation of that isolation can be summed up by this one terrifying statistic. During the Little Ice Age, widespread starvation took hold, and Iceland lost a staggering 50% of its entire population.
Moving on to Section 4. Flourishing amidst the frost.
Now the contrast across the globe here was stark. While isolated areas were literally starving to death, Well-connected areas like Britain and the Low Countries easily coped. So why was that? Well, they had diversified agriculture and huge international trade networks. When their local harvest failed, they just used their accumulated wealth to import food from somewhere else.
These highly connected regions rapidly pivoted to adaptation. They basically used this massive climatic pressure as a catalyst. They engineered insane land reclamation projects, fundamentally transforming their environment. They developed cutting-edge shipbuilding technologies, and that directly fueled the creation of massive, world-spanning seaborne trading empires.
In all of this resilience birthed a genuinely flourishing culture. Take those famous winter landscapes by artists like Bruegel the Elder, which showed Dutch citizens playfully skating on frozen rivers. As researchers point out, you don't go ice skating for fun if you're starving. This art is basically proof of their total mastery over a really harsh climate.
Finally, Section 5, the legacy of adaptation.
So, what's the big takeaway? The Little Ice Age wasn't just a period of miserable freezing. It was a profound environmental crucible that quite literally shaped the modern world. The impact differed wildly across the map, proving that severe environmental pressure doesn't just cause destruction. For resilient, well-connected hubs, it can actually act as a high-pressure catalyst for incredible technological advancement and global expansion.
Knowing that some societies completely vanished into the ice while others used it as a stepping stone to conquer the globe, we're left with a really vital thought. As we face our own rapidly changing climate today, what survival lessons are we going to apply? Are we going to be the isolated societies caught totally unprepared, or will our ingenuity outpace the extremes?